This is the true story of one of England's oldest buildings and one of its most terrifying. Before a single stone was laid, before the year 1145, the land it sits on was already ancient and feared. It was a place for pagan burials, a site where rituals older than written history were performed under the open sky. Locals whispered that powerful energy lines, what some call ley lines, crossed directly beneath this spot. Even then, long before it had a name, people knew this ground was different. They called it unclean, a place to be avoided, especially after darkness fell. They felt something was already there, watching from the shadows of the old world. Then, in the year 1145, construction began. The purpose was practical, to build a place to house the masons, carpenters, and laborers who were erecting the beautiful St. Mary's Church right next door. But the builders, in their haste or ignorance, made a fateful decision. They laid the foundation stones directly over the ancient burial pits, sealing the past beneath the new structure. It wasn't long before the land seemed to fight back. Early records from the construction period are filled with unsettling accounts of bizarre and violent accidents. Tools would vanish, scaffolding would collapse without reason, and a strange, sudden sickness would sweep through the workers, only to disappear just as quickly. It was as if the ground itself was rejecting the inn being built upon it. As the years turned into centuries, the building became a proper inn, welcoming travelers from all over. But they didn't always find a peaceful night's rest. From the 13th to the 16th century, the guest logs and local diaries began to fill with tales of terror. Weary travelers would wake in a panic, gasping for air, describing a terrifying choking sensation or the feeling of unseen hands pressing down on their chests. Others spoke of being touched, pushed, or held down by a force they couldn't see. A recurring and heartbreaking sound was also reported, the faint, lonely cries of a small child echoing through the halls at night, with no child to be found. Concerned, the church sent priests to bless the rooms and cleanse the building. But prayer seemed to have the opposite effect. After each blessing, the paranormal phenomena didn't just return. It became stronger, more aggressive, as if the rituals were feeding the darkness instead of driving it away. Woven into the inn's stark tapestry is the local legend of a woman accused of witchcraft during the turbulent witch-hunting era. The story goes that she was captured, tried, and burned at the stake on or near the property. Her tormented spirit, it is said, never left. Guests staying in one particular room have reported seeing a terrifying female apparition, her face contorted in agony, silently screaming. More disturbingly, burn marks would inexplicably appear on the walls, smelling of soot and ash, even though there was no fire, no candle, no logical source for the scorches. It was as if her final moments were replaying themselves, scarring the very walls of the inn. The sound of a crying child wasn't just a sound for long. It evolved into a full-blown apparition. Over the centuries, countless guests have reported chilling encounters with the ghost of a young boy. It often starts subtly, with a gentle tugging at the bedsheets in the middle of the night. But for the unlucky few, the encounter escalates into pure terror. They jolt awake to find themselves being physically dragged out of bed, pulled toward the floor by an unseen but powerful force. The fear is so intense, so primal, that some guests have been known to flee the inn in the dead of night, not even stopping to grab their shoes, running barefoot into the cold English darkness, just to escape whatever was in that room with them. Over time, the nature of the hauntings began to change. The reports shifted from encounters with human-like ghosts to something far more sinister and non-human. This is where the story of the ancient Ram Inn takes its darkest turn. Witnesses started describing encounters with what they could only call demonic entities. They spoke of horned shadows moving across the walls, of pairs of glowing red eyes staring out from the darkest corners of their rooms, and of a deep, guttural growling that seemed to vibrate through their very bones. The most horrifying accounts came from those who experienced sleep paralysis, claiming that these entities attempted to possess them, a violation not just of their space, but of their very soul. The inn was no longer just haunted. It was becoming a gateway to something else entirely. The darkness wasn't just for visitors. It seemed to cling to anyone who stayed too long. The history of the inn is littered with the bodies of former residents and caretakers who met violent or deeply mysterious ends within its walls. There have been documented suicides, sudden and unexplained heart attacks in otherwise healthy individuals, and even strange disappearances of people who are known to be living or working there. This grim reputation became so ingrained in the local community that, for generations, locals have refused to live in the inn for any extended period. They know the building's history, and they believe that to make it your home is to invite tragedy, madness, or death to your door. Perhaps no one knew the inn's true nature better than John Humphreys, a man who owned the building for decades in the 20th century. He didn't just live there. He dedicated his life to documenting the relentless activity. John claimed the spirits weren't just mischievous. They were violent. He was regularly attacked, reporting being thrown across rooms and physically assaulted by unseen forces. His life inside the inn was a constant battle. He slept with an arsenal of protection. Guns, knives, and Bibles were his constant companions. But like the priests centuries before him, John discovered that overt displays of faith only made things worse. He said that every time he prayed aloud for protection, the demonic activity would intensify, as if mocking his attempts to fight back. He believed he was living with something truly evil. As its reputation grew, the ancient Ram Inn became a magnet for paranormal investigators, all eager to capture proof of the afterlife. Most of them left with more than they bargained for. Teams reported extreme poltergeist activity, objects flying off shelves, doors slamming shut, and furniture moving on its own. They suffered physical attacks, returning home with unexplained scratches and bruises. Their equipment would consistently fail in the most active rooms, with fully charged batteries draining in an instant. The audio evidence they did capture was terrifying. Clear electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, of voices whispering threats and pleas. The experience was so profoundly disturbing that several seasoned investigators reportedly quit the field entirely after spending just one night at the inn, vowing never to investigate again. To this day, the terror continues. The ancient Ram Inn remains one of the most infamously haunted buildings in Great Britain, a place people dare each other to visit. And the reports from modern-day visitors are chillingly consistent with the centuries of horror that came before. People still report the sudden, violent sensation of being pushed by invisible hands, often near the top of the steep staircase. Others are overcome with an inexplicable sudden rage or a wave of overwhelming panic and despair. And many describe the terrifying feeling of ice-cold hands closing around their throat. Countless people who have spent a night within its walls refuse to return, and many are too frightened to even speak publicly about what they experienced. So what is it? Is the land itself cursed, forever tainted by the ancient rituals performed there? Is it a case of residual trauma, the echoes of centuries of pain, fear, and death trapped within the stone walls? Or is it something else, something older and more primal than any human belief or religion? We may never know for sure. Whatever lives inside the ancient Ram Inn has been waiting since before the walls were built, and it is not finished yet.